So, Tony, given the number of lawsuits that we're seeing, especially lawsuits involved with transit, freight and transit by truck or in a warehouse, insurance companies are very concerned with how logistics companies are vetting their vendors that they're using, whether it's a carrier or the warehouse operator. Shippers are entrusting logistics companies to get their goods from A to B without any issues. With the vetting procedure, what do you recommend logistics companies do when they're outsourcing these services to those carriers and warehouse operators? Again, knowing that it's so hard to actually get all the details of some of these carriers' insurance and also as far as the vetting procedures. Trucking companies will often give you a certificate of insurance that, or a logistics company will get a certificate from a warehouse. We don't really know what these coverages are when we're looking at them. They just say, hey, here's your insurance coverages. But again, who knows what kind of exclusions or what they may have in there. So what can we do, or what can a logistics service provider do to help not jeopardize their relationship with their shipper who's depending on them in this process?
Yeah, of course, you're going to look for the certificate of insurance, look at their DOT record as well, if they're a carrier. And obviously, those are all good. But I do think that asking a few simple questions about how they manage security can be helpful, without getting too into the weeds, just the kind of top 3 to 5 things that you want to ask them. You're trying to get a quick turnaround here, but asking pretty simply, do they have a security policy that they follow and that they audit against? Then also, do they have a person who's responsible for security? In that case, you know that there's a standard that they're holding themselves to, and also that there's a person who's responsible for it. That's one of the most common issues that we see is poor incident management. If an incident does happen, if there's an issue with the load or some other type of problem, there's nobody really responsible for it, or at least taking care of it in some way and communicating with you. We want to make sure that there's somebody who's able to be responsible for security while cargo's in transit or while it's sitting in a warehouse. Those are, I think, some of the simplest vetting procedures that you can use if you're on a really tight timeline.
Well, you mentioned a tight timeline. Obviously, freight is moving 24/7. Sometimes our customers will get a call at 4:55 on a Friday saying, I need something moved immediately. They're sometimes forced to go out and use a vendor for the first time, which again creates more issues with the vetting process. Can you give any guidance to that? What should they really be doing? Should they tell the customers, especially if it's a new customer, that they're trying to get their business? Is there a point where you have to say, sorry, I can't do that? There's a big risk losing revenue, obviously, but that's not what they want to do. They want to get the revenue, but they also want to protect the cargo. What would be something they should be looking at in those really urgent type situations?
I think in those more urgent situations, again, a few simple questions about what the warehouse looks like will be helpful. Does it have a perimeter fence? Is there CCTV would be helpful. Same question for the in-transit piece. Are you using GPS tracking? Are drivers trained in security awareness? Basic questions like that. In some cases, people should be more willing to just say no, though, as well. If you think about it, that delay may be a day or a couple of days. If the load is lost or if there's a theft, it's going to take well more than a few days to resolve and going to be more expensive. It's going to result in more disruption than if you had just said no, essentially. I do think it's important to kind of stop, pause, think about the security implications of what you're doing, and that can definitely be helpful in some cases. Explaining to customers that you're offering a higher level of service by doing that can help as well. Of course, speed is king in logistics, but sometimes the level of service and showing that you're offering a higher level of service and security can be good for customer retention and attracting customers as well.